So I don't know where it is. Whoa! Ah! Time. 9. So a couple of days on the train, by the looks of it. Maybe. I don't know. How was I to make my way to St. Pancras train station? I was pretty certain that Scudder's friends would be watching for me outside. This puzzled me for a bit, then I had an inspiration, on which I went to bed and slept for 2 troubled hours. Right. What's your plan? Wait for them to go to sleep? Is there a back door? Possibly. Waking up, I had a great revulsion of feeling, and felt a God's forgotten fool. My inclination was to let things slide and trust to the British police taking a reasonable view of my case. But as I reviewed the situation, I could find no arguments to bring against my decision of the previous night, so with a wry mouth I resolved to go on with my plan. Presumably a wry smile, maybe. I hunted out a well-used tweed suit, a pair of strong nailed boots, and a flannel shirt with a collar. Into my pockets I stuffed a spare shirt, a cloth cap, some handkerchiefs, and a toothbrush. The most important thing you will ever need in such a difficult problem: a toothbrush. I took £50 of it. Of it in sovereigns in a belt which I had brought back from Rhodesia. All right. Clean the hands. Right. Look in the mirror. Oh, shaving, are we? Yeah. Same thing as him, so it's like disguising ourselves, as it were. Now came the next step. Paddock used to arrive punctually at 7:30 and let himself in with a latchkey. But about 20 minutes to 7, as I knew from bitter experience, the milkman turned up with a great clatter of cans and deposited my share outside my door. On him, I staked all my chances. I went into the darkened smoking room, where I breakfasted off a whiskey and soda and some biscuits. Crunch, 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 crunch. What are you planning on doing with the milkman? Like bumping into him? By this time, it was getting on for 6 o'clock. I put a pipe in my pocket and filled my pouch from the tobacco jar on the table by the fireplace. Or are you going to knock him out and take his place? That's an interesting... The book. Information collected January to May 1914. It seemed a good omen. A lot of random letters. Scudder? Can't move it. Scudder.
Goodbye, old chap. I'm going to do my best for you. Wish me well, wherever you are.
Didn't you hear him? The other side of Jordan. I hung about in the hall waiting for the milkman. I was fairly choking to get out of doors. The fool had chosen this day of all to be late. Well, let's see what happens even though the milkman's late, shall we? Third-class citizen. Sunday, the 24th of May, 1914, Wimpole Street, London. Ah, so it would have been the milkman clattering before. Here he is.
God, blimey! Come in here a moment. I want a word with you. Yes, sir?
Bunk. He was a young man, about my own height, with an ill-nourished moustache and wearing a flat blue cap and white overalls. Oh dear. Are we going to knock him out and take his clothes?
You're a bit of a sportsman, and I want you to do me a service. Lend me your cap and overall for 10 minutes, and here's a sovereign for you.
His eyes opened at the sight of the gold, and he grinned broadly.
What's the game? A bet. I haven't time to explain, but to win it, I've got to be a milkman for the next 10 minutes, and all you've got to do is to stay here till I come back. You'll be a bit late, but nobody will complain, and you'll have that quid for yourself.
Right. I ain't the man to spoil a bit of sport. Here's the rig, governor.
Okay, I thought we were going to knock him out. Now we're just going to nick his milk, so, you know, it's only his livelihood. Wearing his hat and overalls, I went whistling downstairs. Oh dear. At first I thought there was nobody in the street. Then I caught a sight of a policeman 100 yards down and a loafer shuffling past on the other side. I crossed the street in character, whistling gaily and imitating the jaunty swing of the milkman. Some impulse made me raise my eyes to the house opposite, and there at a first floor window was a face. As the loafer passed, he looked up, and I fancied a signal was exchanged. Then I took the first side street. There was no one in the alleyway, so I dropped the milk cans inside the hoarding and sent the cap and overall after them. I'd only just put on my cloth cap when a postman came round the corner. I gave him good morning. I gave him good morning. He answered me unsuspiciously. Huzzah! And eventually the milkman will be picked up by Paddock, of course. Then I took to my heels and ran. Right, where is St. Pancras? Oh. Oh, we're just following, so we're following Weymouth Street. Up to Euston Station, past it onto St. Pancras. Right. We're heading up to Scotland. I had no time to take a ticket. A porter told me the platform. I saw the train already in motion. 2 station officials blocked the way. I dodged them and clambered into the last carriage. It's alright. I had made it. Without the ticket, so I think that's a slight problem. Three minutes later, an irate guard interviewed me. He wrote out for me a ticket to Newton Stewart, a name which had suddenly come back to my memory. Then he conducted me from the first-class compartments to a third-class smoker. You can see why it's called a smoker. The compartment was occupied by a sailor and a stout woman with a child. Oh, the newspaper. Anything interesting? Affairs in Berlin. New Minister chills democratic hope. Berlin, Saturday, Prussia, which one must visualize as 2/3 of Germany, in both territory and population, has a home rule question of its own. It's already as ancient as Ireland's, and frequently as acrimonious, though gun running has not yet been attempted. It bobbed up again this week after a period of comparative quietude. I refer, of course, to the agitation for Prussian suffrage reform, which aims at nothing more anything more seditionary than giving the masses, in addition to the classes, a voice in the government of their own affairs. The Emperor King, which is William II's official status in Prussia, appointed a new Minister of the Interior the other day in succession to Herr von Dalwitz, the Viceroy of Alsace-Lorraine. Right, anything interesting that's relevant? Professional revealed, signal book theft, policeman on trial, perjury, a new biblical opera. Cain and Abel, a new opera by the distinguished Bavarian conductor Herr Felix Weingartner, had its first production at the Grand Ducal Theatre of Hesse-Darmstadt this week. More interesting than the work itself, which is said to be good but not masterful, are the circumstances under which it is presented. Weingartner As is well known, is an autistic outcast in Berlin, being barred by law from exercising his profession of conductor in or near the capital on account of breach of contract with the Kaiser's Royal Opera. Queen Alexandra and the Boy Scouts, railway charter, extra cost. They're always putting up fares, aren't they? Right. Attractions of the seasons. Is there anything interesting, or is this all... Oh, this is in Paris. Okay. I thought if this was... Oh, yeah, it's to be in Paris. First in Germany. Empire Day. Yesterday's parade of 6,000. Okay, nothing particularly interesting there, I don't think. We'll just sit down and let the train take us.
It's a sale job catching trains.
Aye, the impudence of that geared. He needed a Scotch tongue to put him in his place. He was complaining in this way, no haying a ticket and her no flower till August 12 month. And he was objecting to this gentleman spitting.
I'm sorry, do you speak English? I had a solemn time travelling north that day. We're heading up. To Crewe. Yes, the gateway of the north. I asked myself why, when I was still a free man, had I stayed on in London and not got the good of this heavenly country. Yeah. I don't know, you should have come north. So, Leeds. Then I got out Scudder's little pocketbook and studied it. Prepare to be terrified. Oops. It'd be good to know where the cursor is. Right, so it's a load. It's various codes, isn't it? Looks like it's... Thingamy. Come on, brain. Roman numerals. There we go. Loads of other ones. Hofgard. I'm not even going to try and read. I was tempted to kind of read it as like a little kind of jokey thing. It's like Xil, 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 Xvil, Xvil, Xtil, Xvil, Xli, along those lines. But it's all in Roman numerals. Amersfoort, Lundville. Everything's in brackets. Dunkrosny 5-5. Pavia 4-5. No clue what it's on about. The keyword. Oh, of course, I tried for hours, but none of the words answered. The writings. I was certain that Scudder never did anything without a reason, and I was pretty sure there was a cipher in all of this. Yes, well done, well done. Potentially a code instead. The cipher. I'd heard of things like chess and puzzles, and I used to reckon myself pretty good at finding out ciphers. These set of figures looked like they corresponded to letters of the alphabet. Okay. I was about to say, okay, so they're the Roman numerals of the Arabic numerals of the letters of the alphabet. We've got L, which is 50, and I think I can see M, which I know is 1,000, and C is 100, and D is 500, I think? Or is it the other way around? I don't know. I don't know. And if I could sit down and work through it, it might be interesting. Might be interesting to have a shot. NBR... no, I don't know who that is. This is going to be pre-nationalisation, so NBR... I feel I should know this, but I can't. I woke up at Dumfries just in time to bundle out onto the crowded platform. Ooh. There was a young man on the platform whose look I didn't like, but he never glanced at me. I caught sight of myself in the mirror of an automatic machine with my brown face, my old tweeds, and my slouch. I was the very model of one of the hill farmers who are now crowding into the third-class carriages. I boarded the Galloway train, travelling with half a dozen in an atmosphere of shag and clay pipes. They had come from the weekly market, and their mouths were full of prices. Local train. Passengers. Above half the men had lunched heavily, and were highly flavoured with whiskey, but they took no notice of me. Conversation. I heard accounts of how the lambing had gone up in the Cairn, and the Duch, and a dozen other mysterious waters. Done. About 5 o'clock, the carriage had emptied, and I was left alone as I had hoped. I got out at the next station. It reminded me of one of those forgotten little stations in Nakaru. An old station master with his spade over his shoulder sauntered to the train, took charge of a parcel, and went back to his potatoes, while a child of 10 received my ticket. The path, then. Not much else to do. The road goes ever on and on. It does go on and on, doesn't it? Onwards. Little tiny cottage. I was getting very hungry when I eventually came to a herd's cottage. Ooh, I've been told I can't click. Being naughty. A brown-faced woman greeted me with the kindly shyness of moorland places. When I asked for a night's lodging, she said I was welcome to the bed in the loft, and very soon she set before me a hearty meal of ham and eggs, scones and thick, sweet milk. At the darkening, her man came in from the hills, a lean giant who in one step covered as much ground as 3 paces of ordinary mortals. They asked me no questions, for I had the perfect breeding of all dwellers in the wild, but I could see they set me down as a kind of dealer. I took some trouble to confirm their view. They refused any payment, and by 6 the next morning I had breakfasted and was striding southwards again. I assume by dealer he means some kind of smuggler type character. All the slackness of the past months was slipping from my bones, and I stepped out like a 4-year-old. My notion was to return to the railway line a station or 2 farther on than the place where I had alighted yesterday, and to double back. Where are you going and why? What's going on? What can I interact with? Approach. I waited till I saw the smoke of an east-going train on the horizon. Of course, we're heading southwards, so that is east. Then I approached the booking office and took a ticket for Dumfries. And I collected a steam train, for some reason. Ooh. Sanctuary of an inn.